You can't hide from it, Pokemon Go has been a humongous success for Nintendo, exceeding their expectations and completely battering mine. I knew the game would be a hit as the concept is pretty simple and pretty cool, but I don't think anyone anticipated just how big it would become. This is something I've touched on in my Just Thoughts video for Pokemon Go, but today I'm going to talk about what I'd like to see in the future for Pokemon Go. It's fair to say Nintendo is going to push this for as long as they possibly can. With now over 30 million downloads, it's clear to see why they will. So join me as I share with you just 10 ideas for Pokemon Go. They aren't in any particular order, but I have saved the best ideas for last. Number 10. Customizable Trainers. Straight off the bat, I was surprised to see this wasn't a feature. Admittedly, you do get some customization at the very beginning of the game, but that's it. Wouldn't it be ace if there was some more clothing for you to unlock, either through hideous microtransactions or Pokestops, preferably the latter, as it would be another reason to encourage you out of the house. I'd also really love to see region-specific clothing, like shirts with flags on so you can show off where you're from when travelling around. It would also be great to make your own pose, or very least a phrase that you could use when you're catching or taking over a gym. Number 9. Making friends and seeing them live. At first I thought it would be an ace idea to see every trainer on the map live, but that would create a hideous amount of problems, both in terms of privacy and sheer scale. Imagine seeing 1,000 trainers gathered around one Pokestop. Ugh, no thank you. But I think at the very least we should be able to add our friends and see them live on the map. Obviously you'd still have the option to go discreet. It would be great to view them on the whole map and see where your friends are, but that's heading toward another entry, so I'll move on from that. Meeting trainers would allow you to interact with them in game and trade items or view each other's Pokedexes. Number 8. View a larger map. I think it would be great if you could zoom out quite far on the map to see yourself and set yourself destinations. This could be based on Pokestops or nearby Pokemon, which could also be a feature. Just imagine setting a road trip but planning it with several Pokestops or locations that are notorious for rare Pokemon. Don't get me wrong, aimlessly wandering around is fun too, but there'll come a point where people will just want a structured route in place, and it would be great if the game allowed you to do that, as opposed to just finding other means. Number 7. Introduce more Pokemon and Mega Evolutions. I've compiled these two as a point because it really is a no-brainer. In fact, it's already been confirmed that more generations are on the way. However, I wanted to bring it up because I personally think it's more likely, and in some sense makes a lot more sense, for them to release 7th gen Pokemon first, very simply to time with the launch of Sun and Moon. People will see these new Pokemon and want to pick them up in their new game, and this would work from both perspectives. Secondly, it'd be great if Mega Evolutions were introduced. Remember in X and Y where you found the Mega Stones randomly? Then it was a little tedious, but in Go it would make a lot more sense to do that. How I see this working is after an update, Professor Willow would give you a Mega Bracelet with one completely random Mega Stone, and explain the rest are found, randomly, across the globe. They could appear as little sparkles on the map, truly encouraging you to scour every road. Obviously Pokemon only Mega Evolve in battle, so you'd have to utilise that Pokemon in a gym. This would encourage gamers to power up their Pokemon so they can compete and acquire the Mega Evolution in their Pokedex. Mega Stones would work like candy in the sense that once you have a stone, it would apply to every one of that Pokemon you have. Number 6. Shiny/regional Pokemon. It's been made clear now that some Pokemon can't be obtained in specific regions, such as Farfetch, Kangaskhan and Mr. Mime. Which is fine, most people could have predicted that, but I'm not entirely sure it's fair, as to catch them all you genuinely would have to travel the world, or trade. What I propose is instead give Pokemon regional versions. What I mean is, a Paris found in Australia could have different colouring to that found in America. Or, and the obvious one, is Vivillon from Generation 6, who has different patterns already depending on its location. They could also introduce the notorious shiny Pokemon to extend the hunt even more. That way, everyone will be able to complete their standard Pokedex, but if they wanted to get regional versions or shiny versions, they'd have to travel or trade. That seems a lot fairer to me. Number 5. Record your Pokestops. I'm kinda surprised this isn't already a feature in the game, but wouldn't it be awesome if you had a travel guide item, which stored which Pokestops you visited and how many times? How cool would it be to build up a whole collection of visited Pokestops when you go on your travels? It would also encourage you to visit every Pokestop in your local area. There could be further achievements for visiting a certain amount of stops, or visiting all stops in a certain mile radius. It'd be like creating your very own mini encyclopedia, built up on your own journeys. Number 4. Interaction with console games. It's already been confirmed that Pokemon Go will interact with the core games, but it hasn't been specified how. The obvious answer that you could move Pokemon to and from each game, but to me that seems to make things a little too easy for the core games, considering it is possible for me to walk outside and go and find a Charizard just like that. Instead, I think it would be cool if you were able to release Pokemon from each of the games into the other. So rather than flat out giving a Charizard to your Sun and Moon, it is released into the wild where you would have to go and hunt it down again. Likewise, you can move console Pokemon into the real world, but they'd only appear on your game, not everyone else's, and obviously within an achievable radius. I think you'd also be limited to how many times you could do this a day. Failing this idea, they could just simply introduce methods of trading items, clothing, that sort of thing. I'm a bit stumped on how they could really interact the two games. They could just do the whole Pokemon swapping thing, but to me that does seem a little unfair. What do you guys think? Because I am kind of struggling with this one. Number 3. Special events. I think this is already in the bag if the debut trailer for Pokemon Go is anything to go by. It makes sense for exclusive Pokemon, presumably legendaries, to appear only at certain points and certain times to gather as many trainers as possible. Nintendo could make a huge event out of this, no joke. If you've watched that Vaporeon Swarm video in Central Park, I can only assure you it would be 10 times bigger with Mewtwo or Mew. I can only imagine the sheer scale of one of these events, and Nintendo could milk the crap out of it, selling merchandise and creating a real Pokemon atmosphere before the big event, Mewtwo, appears. It'd be great to get smaller ones going too in your local area so everyone can get into the action. I'm putting this on my wish list, but the harsh reality is I live on a tiny little island and probably would never be able to access any of these, but I must admit it's a damn cool idea, and undoubtedly will happen. Number 2. Safari Zones. We've all seen the poor trainers that have no Pokestops or Pokemon anywhere near them, but what if we were able to combat that with Safari Zones? Why not turn your local park into a Safari Zone? How this would work is when you enter a Safari Zone, you will start catching Pokemon more frequently as you walk around your local park. The catch is, when you leave the zone, you'll be told you can only keep 6 of the Pokemon you've caught, stopping you from just hoarding. Think back to the good old days of the bug catching Pokemon contest in Pokemon Gold and Silver. You could also be limited to going into the Safari Zone for just a few times or even once a day. Hey, remember when I mentioned that bug contest? Entry number 1. This is without doubt my favourite idea. What if the above mentioned Safari Zones were used to host real life contests in a similar style to those in Pokemon Gold and Silver? This idea does get me super giddy. So for example, a contest would be available between 2 set times of day in your local park, aka Safari Zone. If you enter the area, you'll be asked if you want to enter that day's contest. Once you do, you'll be able to catch as many Pokemon between those times as you can, but you can only submit 1 Pokemon to the contest. Once you're happy with your submitted Pokemon, you can leave and then wait for the results later that day. On these contest days, you could leave and re-enter the zones as many times as you like, as opposed to the normal days where you have restrictions. This idea for me absolutely makes the list. It smashes everything out of the park, pardon the pun. Just imagine going up to your local park and seeing tons of people running around trying to catch different Pokemon. And the contest could change every time. Largest Pokemon, heaviest Pokemon, best fire Pokemon, most powerful. It's too exciting for words. In terms of prizes, all you have to think of is clothing, more Pokeballs, more lucky eggs, incubators, all of that sort of stuff. There's so many incentives for people to get involved in these contests. Well, that's it folks. I hope you enjoyed this quick fire list and you've been inspired. I think implementing just some of these ideas could cause Pokemon Go to blow up even more, or create a second bang if things start to die down. Nintendo are onto a real winner, and I don't think they're going to let go easy. As usual, give me your feedback and let me know some of your ideas. You've been watching Keen TV, and thank you for tuning in.